Chapter 1. Bread. Thieves were we in troubled times, untroubled did we rob thee of thine. Once upon a time, the old road ran from one shore of the land to the other, west to east, east to west, and the country was vast in creature and kingdom. Alder, a man, sat on a lean stump by the edge of a fire. The moon was all but full, glowing hot white and brightening the ground more so than the flames at his feet. A shadowed circle of trees stood off in the distance on either side of the old road. Alder, on his stump, was surrounded by a group of other men, those who had made the fire.
"We're gonna give you our bread, is that it?"
said their loudest companion, looking down on Alder.
"What mad robber tells the fellow he's about to rob that he's about to rob him, eh?"
Alder said nothing.
"You carry a knife,"
continued the loudest man, who had made the fire.
"My friends and I carry hammers and axes, and one of us has his own sword."
Indeed, there was another man standing among them who drew a sword from his belt, a rather short blade, though more than a knife, but fairly thin and plain.
"You're outnumbered 5 to the 1 of you," said the loudest man. "You've taken your place beneath on that stump, like a sheep come to get its throat hewn by its shepherd."
Alder said nothing, staring at each of the men slowly.
"You're perplexing, sir, to say the least," said the loudest man. "Even the right ruler wouldn't tolerate your foolery. I don't speak on his behalf, only what I've heard of him, and he wouldn't tolerate you."
Each man's hand was on his own tool, hatchets and smith hammers, and the one slight sword, while Alder said nothing, as motionless as the stump upon which he sat. The air was clean, hardly influenced by the thin spiral of smoke from the fire, but no wind blew, and only an owl could be heard in one of the trees on the horizon, booing from its branch. "Do you have imp blood in you, robber?" said the loudest man. "Is your brain addled by a spell? Well, we'll correct any error that's been committed against your sanity." He took a step forward, past the fire, raising his own axe. "And now it is my turn to speak," said Alder. Each man stopped where they were, surprised to hear his voice. Alder's eyes were the only part of his countenance they could see, for his chin and neck were wrapped in a black scarf, though winter had recently come to an end, and the beams of the moon summoned more light from his pupils than the rest of his dark, clean-shaven face. "Take heart, fools. I said nothing about thievery," said Alder. "I only spoke of my friend who will arrive shortly, so that we can bargain and be on our way."
"I have a good name given to me,"
said the loudest man.
"I am Strong-will, and you shall have none of my men's bread. You yourself are the fool."
"Do not speak what you know not," said Alder, quoting a verse. "If any brains you haven't got, and stay your mouth when wit is brought, for in your folly you'll be caught."
"Insolent tramp,"
said Strong-will. "Pray be silent," said Alder, "lest I hew your own neck with this mere knife in my belt." The man made no response, for there was another treading through the grass toward the fire. All turned to look for whoever approached, except for Alder, who knew the gait of his companion. Into the gleam of the moon and the lesser light of the fire stepped the new man, young like Alder, though full-grown. He had a beard that neatly covered his chin and mouth, but did not grow down on his neck. He laughed. "What is this grave merriment I've stumbled upon?" said the new man, whose name was Cloud.
"Are you the accomplice of this man?"
said Strong-will, pointing his axe at Alder on the stump. "Of course," said Cloud. "We have come to trade with you. What use are your tools for a peaceable transaction?"
"Perhaps you are a reasonable man,"
said Strong-will, dropping his axe down to his hip.
"Your friend spoke grimly to us."
Cloud laughed, a good laugh, and the fire burned a bit more orange, almost blending with the coolness of the moon's presence. "Alder is known for his shadowed words and callous greetings," though you are lucky he spoke at all, instead of sitting down on that stump without any sort of acknowledgement.
That's what he did,
said Strongwill.
Speechless he joined our fire, but I say you aren't as rude as he.
I make no apology for him, said Cloud, laughing more. The panther does not pardon the wolf for the way he hunts, as it is said.
True enough, said Strongwill. After a time he said he'd have our bread. You shall not have any of our bread, friend. I can only recommend an inn further up the road.
We wouldn't reach the thrush hollow until noon tomorrow, said Cloud, chuckling even still. Alder was quiet.
I can offer you the warmth of our fire, said Strongwill. Beyond that, you will have to forage for yourself.
We have no interest in warmth on a beautiful spring eve, good man, said Cloud. We want food, and we shall have it.
You begin to offend me as much as your companion, old chuckler, said Strongwill. The right ruler wouldn't care for any of this. This is a civilized land.
The right ruler's kingdom is further south, said Cloud, his tone still bright, yet gravelled. Had you forgotten, or are you merely stupid, as I suspect? As for blaspheming his name with your senseless evocations, I'd spit on your shirt if I thought you worth it.
What now?
Said Strongwill, and he and his men raised their hatchets and hammers again. Put your peasant toys away, buffoon, said Cloud with another laugh.
In fear of the stumpman's knife and your 2 palms, you peeving hyena,
said Strongwill, stepping forward, trying to match Cloud's insulting speech as best he could. He wasn't half bad at it, though his nerve was beginning to slip, even if he was unsure why. Are you not the party of thieves that razed the homestead 6 miles back, this very afternoon? The bread is at least ours, and we shall see about the rest. I would return it to the farmer, except you left him dead in the grass beside his wife and sons. Strongwill had nothing to say to this, but only stood there, his mouth quivering as he tried not to open it with anger and excuse. His men, however, began to grumble protests at the accusation. "Hush," said Alder from his stump. "Your leader does not deny it, therefore neither do you, knaves." "And you speak of the right ruler with such admiration," said Cloud. "You know he punishes some of the wicked there with a nameless beast in a shadowed pit. You make your living in a lowly land, while the wilds are off away where you'd be utterly meaningless. You are simply a fox prowling on chicken coops, while the real forest lies beyond your cowardly attention." Strongwill stamped his foot against the dirt.
"Who are you, then? A hero of renown?"
"Perhaps I am a mighty warrior with an army of faithful men waiting on the other side of the road for my command," said Cloud. "Perhaps I am a vengeful magician who could throw these sparks up into your heads with a mere thought. Perhaps I am a nobleman, or a king, or a lawmaker."
"Who are you, hyena?" said Strongwill.
"I am Cloud of the Stolen Castle," said Cloud, "and you shall give us your bread and your bags." Strongwill swung his axe up with a great shout, when suddenly he felt the tool taken from his hands and a knife blade pressed against his neck. Alder had leapt up from the stump and now dragged Strongwill away from his 4 men, so that he, his captor, and Cloud stood facing them all, the fire between them.
"Give them the bags,"
said Strongwill, his muscles loosening as if they were made like water.
"Give them the bloody bags."
His men, as frightened as he was, threw down their weapons and scurried to fill their sacks with the food they had arranged to eat. Soon all 3 bags were tossed at the feet of Cloud. "Thank you, men," said Cloud. "We have pressing business, and it is kind of you to make haste on our behalf. Alder is strong. He won't let your leader fall down, weak as his legs have become." Cloud then stepped forward and stooped, taking up the fallen axe by the fire. The 4 men stood huddled together, unsure if they should attack or only watch, unsure of what was to happen at all. What happened next was fairly simple. Cloud swung the handle of the axe, crack, and one of the men dropped to the ground. The other three hardly noticed this, for in another moment Cloud clubbed each one of them over the head equally, and they became entirely unconscious. The axe handle snapped in half on the final skull, and Cloud threw it into the fire. Strong-Will was nearly slipping from Alder's grasp as he became more and more afraid of these two men. His lip was bouncing, short puffs of air pattered from his mouth as he tried to shout or scream or curse his captors. Cloud turned to him and crouched to meet his sinking eye level. Come now, said Cloud, laughing. I am just a hyena, you remember. I'm not to kill you, or at least I won't. You deserve it without question, faint rogue, but Alder and I have only one suit of clothing each, you understand, and we don't want the discomfort of crisp bloodstains rubbing us raw tomorrow. Not on your account.
Cloud,
said Strong-Will, somehow managing to speak again.
Of the stolen castle? Should I know that name?
No, said Cloud. Foxes don't bother about tales of the wild forest. Your ignorance was your only comfort, and now this small fright will be enough to make you sober for a good few years or more, I should hope. Maybe you will become a real man in that time, but this eve was insignificant for Alder and me. We're on our way to the stolen castle to slay the Beast King, which you've never heard of. I will swear it for you. Now, in truth, I hope you do not wake, but I will not wait till morning to ensure it. Thus began the quest of Cloud of the stolen castle, and his great friend Alder, and the fierce wilds that stretched before him, and the Beast King that waited at the end. For the rest of the story, follow the link in the description below.